podcast episode. And I'm really going to go ahead and pretty much just jump right in today. I know I'm normally waiting until like the 3-minute or 5-minute mark to jump in to wait for people to join, but I'm actually going to go ahead and get started today. I'm going to go ahead and jump in. So if you're watching on the replay, you can just hang around unless you feel like jumping forward. So again, hello and welcome. This is the Human Condition podcast series, and my name is Éoaccí, and I created this podcast series to have a space to explore, discuss, and exchange from the position of manifestation, yes, but manifestation as a normal part of the human condition, and not just manifestation, but the way that identity shifting and manifestation go hand in hand. For me, and the way that I have been approaching things in my own life, if you've been here for a while, you've heard me speak into this. I have been approaching things from a position of me needing to do a ton of inner work before I could experience the life that I wanted. And just hang on 1 second, you guys. Let me fix the moderation here. Okay, so basically I have been approaching this experience with identity shifting from the place that I need to somehow change my inner child, right? Like I need to go in, I need to do inner child healing, I need to do shadow work, I need to do all these things, because that is what had been passed down to me. That's what I had learned. And I honestly believe that on this journey, on this path, that is just simply one of the things we're going to delve into, especially because as a collective, especially a spiritual collective, or if you want to use the terminology, the spiritual collective, those that are on a spiritual journey are coming into contact with the words awakening, or they're coming into the words awakening, higher consciousness, ascension, things like this. And when you come into contact with those words, there are, of course, very specific beliefs around those words. And for me, my position on this had always been that we're going to have this massive ascension. We're going to escape the 3D. We're going to escape the matrix. We're going to ascend into some higher dimension, and we're going to be free of the physical human condition. And that's the way I used to believe about the whole position of higher consciousness and so on and so forth. And now that I've been a part of this journey for almost 10 years now, and I've received certifications in somatics and neuropsychology and life coaching and trauma-informed life coaching, what I've discovered is that this is really just simply about experiencing the human condition and understanding that when it comes to identity shifting and manifestation, it's literally already a part of how we're hardwired and equipped. You do not have to do anything to experience the different version of you, at least not in the way that I have always been conditioned to believe, which is that there's like steps A, B, C, and D are necessary before I get to that experience of that identity. So where I'm at now in my experience with things now is that I simply need to decide right now what's true. And that coincides with a higher state of consciousness. That coincides with a higher state of awareness. That coincides with not instant manifestation, because there is no such thing as instant manifestation, but it coincides with the ability to directly connect to the currency of identity that I desire to experience, which I believe is one that we all desire, which is one that's more abundant, that has a greater state of health and wellness, that's got a powerful circle of friends. You're surrounded by people that love you, appreciate you, are attentive to you, or your emotional needs, and so on and so forth. And the one thing that consistently comes up in my clientele, and in terms of, 1 second, one of the things, or at least the main thing that's in my awareness right now in terms of reaching higher states of consciousness, reaching higher states of awareness, and how this coincides with my clients, is I have those that are facing major life decisions. And of course, I'm working with them directly and supporting them in the identity shift, or the shift in focus of awareness and the currency of consciousness that awareness is directed to. And so these are pretty big major life decisions, right? Like purchasing a new vehicle, purchasing a house, moving into an apartment, leaving their job and be starting a business, all of these different things. I also am working with those that have different levels of addiction, and obviously are shifting out of that type of behavioral state. So one of the biggest questions that comes up across the board is, if it doesn't matter, if let's say if the type of vehicle I choose doesn't matter, if there really isn't another person in my reality, so I don't, like, the person doesn't matter, the apartment doesn't matter, the home doesn't matter, where do I base my choice? What is the choice? Like, if it doesn't really matter which apartment I choose, if it doesn't really matter which house I choose, what is the choice? The choice is, are you choosing enoughness right now? Are you choosing that everything is well and good right now? Are you choosing that you're already healthy right now? Are you choosing that you're financially stable, secure, and abundant right now? That's the choice. Everything else is simply just an echo chamber of that choice. And the majority of us, or at least this has been my experience, especially with myself and those that I'm in direct contact with, we've been conditioned to see through our RAS the worst possible case, or we have all of these glimmers of the best case scenario in front of us right now. But our RAS has been conditioned to focus on the worst case. We are trying to prepare for some possible future outcome where things are horrible. We're trying to prevent sickness. We're trying to prevent some catastrophic event. One of my friends and former clients is also, some of the things that she speaks to me about is this focal point of world destruction and like things happening in the world. Hey, Mina, welcome. I'm so grateful you made it, my dear. And it's, when we have this focal point where we're concerned with what happens, where we're concerned with what happens to other people, or we're concerned what happens with other people because we've been conditioned to believe that we need to focus our attention out there. We need to worry about when our partner, our love of our life is going to show up. We need to have we need to worry about when our SP is going to show up. We need to worry about what they're going to look like and when how that relationship's going to look. We need to worry about when the perfect house is going to appear, when the perfect car is going to appear. And we have this idea in our mind that our life will only be complete when that thing appears. And so enoughness has been this elusive future idea. And so as we're experiencing and interacting with enoughness right now, as we're actually interacting with health and wellness right now, as we're interacting with abundance right now, we don't see it. We don't see the health. We don't see the wellness. We don't see the abundance. We don't see that every puzzle piece has already been put together right now. Because again, our RAS is filtering our reality based on our most dominant focal point of awareness. That dominant focal point of awareness is also directly correlated to a currency of consciousness. A person that is more consciously connected to the fourth dimension has a currency that is more abundant in receiving. And more abundant in receiving means not necessarily that I have to receive more of something new. It means that I can receive everything that's here right now abundantly from a place of just pure acceptance. I'm in love with everything right now. I'm not waiting for that perfect person to show up. I'm not waiting for the perfect house. I'm not waiting for the perfect car. I'm not waiting for health to find me because of, because of my doctor, because of a cure for some disease, or because of some prescription that I have to receive. I am deciding right now that I'm already healthy. And the key to this is when you're looking at choices, a lot of times we think of choices as like, what am I going to eat next? Like, what am I going to eat for supper? Or, where am I going to stop to fill my car up with gas? That's an extension of the ultimate choice, but that's not the actual choice. The extension of the ultimate choice are, shall we say, the fractals. They're the little branches of the tributaries of the main river, right? They're branching off, but they are not the determination. They're not what they're basically like little opportunistic experiences of that original decision. So if my original decision is that I'm already healthy, if my original decision is that I'm already wealthy, if my original decision is that I have everything I need right now and I'm abundant and I am prosperous and that I have, everything's perfect, then what I choose to eat will reflect that. Where I choose to stop and get gas will reflect that. Because if I believe that I'm abundant, I'm not going to be worried about gas prices. Now, it doesn't mean that when I see gas prices or I hear somebody talking about it, that I don't have certain thoughts that pass through, that I don't have certain feelings, because especially if you're just beginning to transition in an identity, your focal point is going to go back to what's familiar. And if what's familiar is like the frustration, the anger, the anxiety, the looking at the prices and seeing what you lack. And again, this is a big one for everybody across the board when it comes to money, is they see those numbers and the first thought is what they can't do with it, what they don't have, or how that's not enough, how they're lacking something, even though what they actually have is enough. They have enough. And I want to remind you guys, and before I even go into that, a lot of what I'm discussing here is piggybacking on itself. It's just reiterating a lot of things that, again, like I always say, I'm sure you've always heard, and it's nothing new. It's the question is, are you choosing to be present long enough to receive it and to acknowledge it from a different place? Or are you just showing up and looking for somebody to tell you what to do? Are you just showing up and trying to get a dopamine rush of something new? Are you here to actually learn? Because if you're here to learn, you listen differently, right? That's an identity. That's a state. Your state is your identity. And so if you're in an identity or a state of receiving, you're abundantly available for everything. You're not pushing anything away. But when it comes to things such as finances, when it comes to things such as money, people will look at that amount and they will only see what they lack. And there's parables in the Bible that cover this, where about the parable of the loaves, where Jesus turns 5 loaves into 5,000, I believe. So what that story is representing is that you can take any number and expand it through your awareness, through your consciousness, through your currency of consciousness, by accepting that it's already happening right now. If you have $5 in the bank account, you can go into and imagine and see 5,000 on your screen. The 5,000 is no less true than the 5. It's what do you believe in? Do you believe in the 5 more? Do you believe that you have $5 more than you believe that you have 5,000? And that's really the question, because the majority of people are going to believe in the 5 because it's the most familiar, it's the most common, and it's also the easiest for them to relate to, because they're so used to just seeing that number and not doing anything with it. Like, basically resorting to the assumption that first and foremost they get paid by someone else, that someone else is somehow paying you money when there's nobody else in your reality but you. So if you resort to the fact that somebody else pays you money, then you're always waiting for someone to give you something. Again, it comes back to this waiting, the state of waiting. And so when you determine that you have everything you need right now, you're not leaning into those tributaries in the same way. You have decided by going and looking at your bank account, by envisioning that number differently, by internally choosing that you have everything right now, you're approaching your reality from the place that you're always met with an abundance of money, an abundance of love and abundance of support. You're always met with abundance. But the only way that what you see is going to come back to you differently, where you don't even have to envision it anymore, is you have to start sending the signal. You've got to put the information out. And in truth, that information is already available. It's just, it comes back to, where are you leaning in from? Because if you're already leaning in from what's wrong, what you need to do to fix what's happening now, if you believe that, let's say that you've been in contact with someone, your specific person, a partner, and let's say you guys get in an argument, or let's say that you have been focusing on health and wellness, and all of a sudden you end up with a runny nose and a cough, or you're focusing on more abundance and your air conditioner breaks in your car. How are you going to approach that moment right there? That's the determining factor of your interaction with your reality. Because just because you and your SP or your partner get in a fight does not mean that you've done something wrong. But if your RAS has been conditioned to filter that line of information, then that's the currency of consciousness you're connected on. And that currency of consciousness is expecting the worst case. It's saying, doesn't matter what I do, what comes back to me is wrong. What comes back to me is bad. These situations don't work out. I never have enough. I'm never doing things correctly. That type of predictability is always going to be, it's not just familiar, but it's how you have determined you're going to interact with your reality no matter what happens. So you flip the switch. And myself and Mina were having some really powerful conversations around this week, and she's here right now. And when you flip that switch, you're still going to have those thoughts surface. It's about being in the thought and not believing in it. Those thoughts are passing through. Emotions, they're acute until you feed them more of your attention. If fear passes through, fine, let it pass through. It only lasts for 60 to 90 seconds. If you can stand in that fear for 60 to 90 seconds and simply just embrace it and acknowledge that nothing is wrong, that's the conditioning of the RAS differently. Nothing is wrong. Everything is exactly as it should be. And just simply be grateful that you actually have the opportunity to recognize the way that you have been experiencing your reality. Hello and welcome. And if you give yourself an opportunity to simply just acknowledge the fear, then you're no longer afraid to feel the fear, which also strengthens the ability for you to face your reality differently. And so no matter what happens right now, the choice is, are you going to accept that everything is perfect? And I would say two of the most, based on my work with my clients and just my friends, two of the most, I would say, challenging areas for people is that if you have a loved one that's sick, or someone in your reality that's sick, or even an animal, in my case, Bruiser, if you have a perceived loved one or someone that you care about that's sick or unwell, or even maybe yourself, or there is a relationship that's strained, and there is maybe a transition that's happening, a divorce, a separation, those areas seem to be some of the most challenging for people to begin to see that they are the only ones that are influencing what's happening. And that's because we tend to look at it, not tend to, we do, until you see differently. We look at what's happening as there is a separate person out there that I'm interacting with. And then when I see this person and they're unwell, then I have fear or sadness or this impulse to do something about it. And because I want to do something about it, I want to see them better, I want to see them well, my habit, or the habit of my identity, is to look for a solution, is to try to fix it, is to try to change it. There is nothing that you need to do in order to have that person show up differently. There is nothing you need to do to have wellness reflected back to you other than deciding that it already is. Everything exists right now. It's literally right in front of you. Everything. Everything that ever has been and ever will be is right here, right now. It never goes anywhere, and you do not have to work for it. You decide which filter you're going to wear. Like, it's like changing out different lenses on glasses, different lenses on sunglasses, or different lenses on regular glasses. You are seeing through the tint of lens that you have decided is true. So if you decide that you are unwell, that ultimately you have to take steps to be well, you can say and affirm and reinforce all day long. Same for the family member, because they're just you pushed out. They're an echo chamber for your belief system, okay? Nobody else is there. Your nervous system, your subconscious are the only thing that interact with your reality, because you're not in reality, you are reality. Hello and welcome. So because you are reality, you interact with yourself. So if you are saying that you need to do something to feel better, and you need to do something to get healthy, and you need to do something to get wealthy, your body and your reality will constantly be in a state of waiting, basically frozen. It's not technically frozen, obviously, but we're just going to use that as a point of reference. So there will always be this ultimate position of something's missing. Something's missing. And since something is missing, that means I don't have it now. And if I don't have it now, then I can't experience it now, because I ultimately believe that it's out there in the future waiting on me to find it. Is that making sense for you guys? So if you believe that it's out there somewhere and it's not here right now, then how can you experience it here right now if you're ultimately waiting on it to happen in the future and to somehow meet you at whatever point in time you think it might? So everything is already here. It's already here right now. You can see it right now if you choose. Just like I mentioned with the money. You can look at your bank account, and I don't care if you have a $0 or $5 in your account. Look at the screen, it's just pixels anyways, and see it differently. Train your RAS to filter the information differently. Wear a different color of lens. Put different glasses on. Your state, a lot of times, people talk about the state of being, is simply just your identity. That's all it is. It's just your identity. That's your state. And every version of you, every version of identity is existing from a very specific state, shall we say, a frequency. And that frequency is your assumptions, your convictions, how you react and or respond to events, situations, experiences, thoughts in your reality or within yourself, because you are reality. It is your emotional experience, the way that you are emotionally and subconsciously linked to your thoughts, beliefs, your choices, or your karma, or your conviction. All of that's your frequency. And so that frequency is constantly transmitting, and it's printing onto the 3D, and you're getting it back through an echo chamber of your 5 senses. Your 5 senses are simply just the bridge between the echo and you. So you're putting it out, you're transmitting it, and it's echoing back. And when it echoes back, you're the ultimate and only determining factor of what that echo says. You're the only one that determines what part of the echo you hear, what part of the echo you see, what part of the echo you ultimately receive. And so if you have decided that you don't have enough health right now, that you're unwell, that it requires something else in order for you to be healthy, you will always be waiting to be healthy. And that can change in an instant. All you have to do is decide that you're healthy, allow it to be so, and simply just interact with your body, your reality, and every experience as if you already are. That way you're no longer waiting, you are receiving. Because when you're waiting, you've said, I can't receive anything else because I'm waiting for this one thing to make me better. And even if you haven't identified that specific thing, maybe you're not naming it, that's actually just equally the same in terms of experience. You're still chasing and looking and seeking and trying to find. So this has possibly been one of the biggest transitions for me was to ultimately realize that there was nothing missing. And at the same time, because I have been so conditioned to want to fix, change, control what's happening right now, do something about what's happening right now, I feel like that's how we all approach it. There's, I would say the only thing that I've learned that I really need to do is learn that there's nothing for me to do. And coming from a nervous system and a conditioned pattern of urgently needing to do something, that's the only place that I've really required there to be work or something to do, which is to remember I can let go and surrender because everything is already here right now. And it will meet me right now if I simply just allow it to. But if I'm waiting for it, I'm not allowing it to, I've already decided that it's not here, it's out there. So if you guys, I would love to hear from anyone that's here if this is landing and, you know, what you're getting from this, because this is honestly the most powerful, and not just the most powerful, it is the foundation for interacting and experiencing your reality from a position of actually seeing and interacting with everything from a place of it being perfect, from you being abundant, from you being wealthy, from you being healthy. It's literally here. But we don't normally see that. We see what we lack. We see what's wrong. We have our awareness focused on like looking at the external and feeling like we need to somehow go out there and pick at things and fix things and manipulate things and somehow control things. And that's the part we have to let go of. Give me 1 second, you guys. I'm going to refresh my page, okay? Hang on 1 second. Okay, there we go. So when we stop, whoa, oh my goodness. My bad, you guys. Just completely destroyed everything here. When we stop trying to do that, then we start to interact with things differently. So ultimately, the choice is, and again, this came to me as a question from a friend and also a client, like, what is the choice? So you decide right now. Decide right now that you have everything. Decide right now that you have whatever it is. How much money do you want? How much money do you want to experience? I want you to decide it right now. Just decide. Decide a number. Decide and decide it from the position that it is enough. Because if I have learned one thing, there was a point in time where I had a very good cushioning of money that I would keep in my savings account. And I had a good cushioning in my savings. I had good cushioning in my checking, which I don't do that anymore. I don't save up. I don't restrict myself by saving up just in case. But I used to. And when I would save up, I would literally be saving from this place of, first and foremost, I would have a number that was comfortable for me. And when that number was in my savings account, I felt good. I could do whatever. I could go through life. I would be joyful. I would be happy. I would be relaxed. You know, everything would be good, man. I would have a certain amount in my checking account that when I was at that number, again, certain amount in checking, certain amount in savings, everything was good. But as soon as I went under that amount, even by $50, by $20, anxiety started coming up. My heart started beating faster. My palms would get sweaty. I would start feeling really anxious because I had decided that even when I had more than enough, because anything that I'm saving is more than enough. I'm basically greedily hiding it away like a squirrel, like I'm saving for something in the winter, like some winter catastrophe. So obviously I had not just enough, I had more than enough. But my anxiety and my fear was telling me, if you go below that number, you're never gonna have enough. You only feel safe at this number and above. And so numbers became a source of dysregulation and a source of anxiety. I would even see people offering, as I've mentioned before, offering their services. And when I would see a certain number, I would get pissed off. I would be like, how dare they offer that? Like, this stuff is not something that costs tens of thousands of dollars. And I would get so mad, and I would be so judgmental, and I would be thinking about all the things that were wrong with their offering or what they asked for. And that was because I believed something to be wrong with that number. That number was not a number that I was familiar with, because they were asking $10,000, $15,000 for a course or a mentorship. And so because they were asking that, I was jealous, I was insulted, and that was because of my relationship to those numbers. Obviously, my relationship to numbers was simply just my relationship with my comfort zone. I had decided that enoughness wasn't here, that it was somewhere out there, and I was not able to access it, and I could not access that type of experience. As soon as I changed my relationship to how I interacted with those numbers, everything changed. I was receiving $10,000, $15,000, $12,000 for my services. I was receiving the same amount of money that I was once judging and jealous over, and that was just from one person. So normally what it would take me months to receive, I was receiving from one person. And that changed within less than a month, just literally within a matter of a week or two, because I decided I was no longer going to be offended by money, or I was no longer going to feel unsafe because of not having a certain amount of money. I determined that I was always safe, that I always had enough, and I literally have evidence of that around me all day, every day. And so do you. You have evidence around you all day, every day that you have enough. You have evidence around you all day, every day that you're loved, that you're safe, that you're healthy, that you're happy. It's just, are you choosing to see that? Are you choosing to receive that? Or are you choosing to only see what's wrong? Are you choosing to judge? Are you choosing to project your own insecurities onto this echo chamber of reality and somehow feel as if you need to somehow place your own insecurities out there onto someone else? Because it's not what the other person is doing. They don't even exist in your reality. It's just the version of them that you desire to be there. There's nobody else there. You interact with yourself. Even now, even me expressing this right now in this video, I'm really communicating and receiving myself back. And that's why when we decide to do something for someone else, we're never fulfilled. And because we're never fulfilled, we're always in the belief that fulfillment is out there somewhere. And that leaves us constantly seeking, constantly searching, constantly feeling like we don't have enough, constantly feeling like we're not enough, which again comes back to, if you believe you're not enough, then you'll never have enough health, you'll never have enough wealth, you'll never have enough of anything, because you've already decided you don't. It's got to come in through someone or something else. So decide it's here now and live from that place. And I would say probably the most challenging part for me in this is it comes back to that state of seeing someone I love in an experience of unwellness, or possibly being unwell, possibly being sick, however you want to word that. Because then I want to do something to help them. And my entire career has been based on helping others, supporting others, showing up for others. I even built my business and my offerings and my services for the longest time based on what I thought other people would enjoy, I was doing it based on what I thought other people would show up and experience. And what I've learned is that I'm not doing it for other people anymore. I was never really doing it for anyone. I was doing it for myself. And when we're trying to prove our worth, when we don't see the worth right now, when we don't see the enoughness right now, then we go through our life trying to prove that to someone else when no one else is there. So if anything, the one thing I would love for you to take from this is that literally everything that you've ever wanted is here right now. And I don't just mean like here, it's literally you can see it if you want to. You can see whatever it is you desire. And I will give you an example of this. I'm going to use an example from a conversation, and it has to do with the friend that I mentioned is moving into a new apartment. And one of the things she mentioned is that her ideal location is on a piece of land in nature, has a very specific community, and there's obviously in her ideal, in her imagination, her ideal location was different than the location that she ultimately said yes to. So when she was sharing these things with me, and she was sharing with me, before she said yes to the apartment, when she was sharing these things with me, like the very first thing when she shared it with me was excitement. She was really excited because she's been wanting to make this move, and it's been something she's wanted for a while. But the longer that she waited to simply reinforce what she had already decided, which would be, well, I've already decided I'm going to make the move. I'm going to live in an apartment, and I'm going to, I've already decided I'm going to do this. So I go ahead and say yes. The longer we wait, we start to experience that hesitation as doubt. And yes, I will do my best. I'm trying to get this in here so that I'm not going for like 2 hours. This is something where I would invite you guys to come back and revisit and take some notes, because there is a lot here. But in this conversation, when she was expressing to me the doubts that were coming up, the doubts come in when we are already in an identity, in a belief that we don't have enough. That's ultimately the choice that's been made consistently through time, which is one I'm very familiar with myself. And so it's also one she's familiar with. And so since it's one she's familiar with, even though she had already decided she wanted to make the move and that she was going to live in this apartment, the doubts were coming up. And the doubts were saying, be able to pay for the food. I might not be able to do these things. It's not on the piece of land. It's not in nature. It's not connected to the things that I really desire. So if I say yes to this, what if my perfect place comes along and I'm locked into this contract for however long, and my perfect place comes along, then I'm going to miss out on my perfect place. Or essentially that's the stream of thought. That's all coming from a position that enoughness isn't here right now, that I'm going to miss out on enoughness in the future, that I'm going to miss out on perfection in the future. Because when I invited her to slow down and look at everything, she actually does have access to nature. She does have access to the interaction she desires. She already has access to all the things that she said she didn't, because of the way she was linking them through doubt, which is basically taking how perfect everything already is and finding something wrong with it, and basically taking it out of its perfect position and sitting it over to the side and crumpling it up and just making it seem as if it's not good enough. And we all do this in some way. I do this as well. So when we slowed down and we started exchanging on this and discussing on this, and I just invited her to look at it a little bit differently, of course she ultimately said yes. The excitement came back, and she was able to reconnect to the original position that she had decided on internally, which was that this is where she is. This is where she's experiencing herself, that this is perfect, that this is enough, that everything is already taken care of. And of course that was where we ended up in that. But when you're constantly used to seeing that you're not enough, that you don't have enough, then everything in your life is filtered through that. You don't have enough health, you don't have enough wealth, you don't have enough love, which means you're missing out on a partner, you're missing out on a future, you're missing out on a future with a partner, you're missing out on a family, you're missing out on everything. That means no matter what's happening in your life, you're not seeing how wonderful it is. You're just seeing what you're missing out on. And that will ultimately, constantly, consistently hand you more evidence of what you're missing. But when you start to see how perfectly the puzzle pieces fit together, health, wealth, love, those are the three main that people feel they're missing. Like they just don't have, like they don't have love in their life because they don't have a specific person or a partner, when love ultimately is, obviously, I know we hear this, but it's more than just an idea or concept. Love exists within us. Our reality is the echo chamber of that. Wealth exists within us. Our reality is just the echo chamber. Health exists within us. Our reality is the echo chamber. So your senses, how you experience your body, is an echo chamber of your beliefs. If you ultimately believe that you don't have enough, and that you've never been enough, and that you're missing out on something, or you will miss out on something, your body will be missing health. It will be missing wellness. You'll be missing the mark. You'll be having moments of feeling okay and feeling good, and moments of feeling really bad. And you'll constantly be seeking for something to make you feel better or to help you get better, because again, ultimately you have identified in unwellness. Meaning I identify with the facts, the truth, that I am constantly missing something in my life. But when you start seeing how perfect everything is, and this isn't some, and I've said this a million times, I'll say it a million more. It's not this like false positive, fake, like highlight, high positive, high vibe. It's literally, you're going to experience self-doubt. You're going to feel fear. You're going to feel anger. You're going to feel all the emotions. You're not pushing the emotions away, and you're not trying to be above emotions. That's not the human condition. The human condition is to be in the experience of every emotion without believing and identifying with the emotion. Because we all have beliefs in what certain emotions represent for us. I know for me, when self-doubt would come up, I would believe, oh my gosh, I'm doing something wrong. Self-doubt's here and it's not supposed to be here because everything was going really good. Now all of a sudden everything is going really bad. I must have messed up. I must have done something wrong. That movement, that type of shift, that type of way of thinking is coming from that place that I can do wrong. That means I have identified with wrong. Now my identity is based on right and wrong. And because I have identified with right and I have identified with wrong, I now have the experiences of that, because now my 5 senses are the bridge that are giving me an opportunity to interact with what I believe is right and what I believe is wrong. And so as you begin to move forward and as you begin to interact with your reality, and I'm just going to start to wrap this up right here, just remember to interact with your reality that the choice is ultimately here right now. And that choice is, do you believe in enoughness? Do you believe that you already have it all? And how you interact with others, how you interact with the event, how you interact with the situation says everything about you. The majority of people do not operate from compassion or acceptance. Everyone's usually coming from some sort of agenda. And I don't mean that negatively. I just mean they're like, I need to get this person. I need to do something before this person does something to me. It's constantly this subconscious and unconscious action to always be on the attack or on the defense. And because people interact with other people in such a way, there's no compassion, there's no love, there's no acceptance. Not that that doesn't exist in them, it's that they simply don't choose it. They use other people as a way to project their own insecurities. And they use other people as a way to project their own shortcomings, even though that person isn't really there. But that image activates something in them. It makes them want to go on the attack, or even that specific event or that specific situation, because they have not chosen to practice how beautiful, wonderful, and loving everything already is through every interaction that they have. So therefore, again, those interactions are coming from lack. And they wonder why they feel like they don't have enough money. And they wonder why they feel like they don't have supporting friends. And they wonder why they don't feel like they have a family that's supporting of them. All of that is simply just a reflection of how you choose to show up and act, how you choose to show up and be. And you can't expect someone else in your reality that doesn't even exist anyways to show up and be something for you that you yourself are not even being. If you can't show up and be compassionate, then why the hell would somebody, the reflection of you, be compassionate, right? So it's easy to simply act from the position and act from the place that we always have. And that is to assume, number one, that we know it all. And number two, that what we know is ultimately all that there is. But you can see things differently at any given moment, at any time. And in my own reality, in my own experiences, I have decided to see money differently. I've decided to see health differently. I've decided to see my interactions with people and with clients differently. And I've also decided that what I am doing, what I'm offering here, how I'm showing up here, it's not for you. It's for me, because I am what's coming back to me. Because I have decided that people always show up for me in a state of love and acceptance and compassion, then I just simply show up in love and acceptance and compassion. And I just share lovingly. I share compassionately. I share openly. And I just simply share because I enjoy it. And I no longer do this for other people. It's not about other people because there's nobody else there. And that kept me stuck for a long time because I was constantly trying to figure out what I needed to do next, right? Like what certification to get next, what I needed to figure out next so that I could be better serving people, right? And of course, also because I believed that I wouldn't make money if I didn't have that figured out, I was constantly basing my income on what I could make through my service and through my offerings. But nobody's paying me. I pay myself back what I put out. So what I decide I put out is ultimately the choice in which everything comes back to me on. So if I decide I'm putting everything out from love and acceptance and compassion because everything is perfect right now, and I can look around and I can see how perfect everything is right now, then guess what? Everything comes back to me that way. You have to remember, you've also built your entire identity based on believing in right and wrong, believing in good or bad, believing in the fact that you need to do something to change what's happening right now before you can see something differently, before you can get results. That's not true. Now, I will say this really quickly. You can practice different techniques if you want, and it will support you. Like I do the mind movies. I go into my imagination and I play in the experience because my nervous system doesn't know the difference. It doesn't know that it's happening in the 4D. It's just simply experiencing it as it always has. And since I am always imagining, I just choose to be conscious and aware of it instead of unconscious and predictable and familiar from that position of expecting the worst. And so because I decided that I enjoy that, I like adding that to my routine, but you don't have to. I also used to believe that you needed to meditate and you needed to do all of these things to make the transition happen. But again, that's just supporting whatever I believe to be true. And that also does not have to be the only truth. The truth can also be that I decided and it's done. It can literally be that easy. And it is. And so I've been playing in that I've just decided, and I'm just allowing everything to reflect that back to me. And you have to remember, guys, you have to start somewhere. And if you're waiting to feel better, if you're waiting until you have the money, if you're waiting until you, I don't know, get a certification or go on the retreat or make the move or buy the car or have the perfect partner. Again, if you're waiting on those things, you're just waiting. Of course, nothing is quote unquote showing up in the way that you desire because it's already here and you have nothing to wait on. So I'm leaving you with that. I trust that everything that's been shared here is supporting you wholeheartedly and unconditionally in every way imaginable. And I know, yes, things were discussed at maybe a quick pace for some, but not necessarily for others. The pace is what you determine it is. This is the type of material that you don't just sit here and play in. I mean, you can, but this is the type of material that you choose to be consciously aware and attentive to. And therefore you will receive it from that place, and you can always take notes. So, hello, Annabella, welcome. I'm just starting to kind of wrap it up a little bit, but if you're interested in hanging around for a little while, I can explore a little bit more. Just let me know. We're just discussing basically manifestation and the shift in choice and what that really is, and all things connected to conscious creation here. But this everything that's shared here is shared from a position that, yes, you've heard it, it's not new, but my experience with it is new. It's because it's my experience, which means you've never interacted with my experience, just like I've never interacted with your experience. So anytime you receive from someone, the same information is shared differently. That's what makes it powerful, because it's going to land differently each time that someone puts it in a slightly different context. But that's also going to come in even more powerfully when you're connecting with someone that's actually applying it and not just talking about it. And I used to just talk about it, but now I'm actually applying it, and it's definitely something that's not just changed my life for the better, but those that I'm connected to, my friends, like Mina, my clients, my former clients, I have those that I'm exchanging with right now, and they're experiencing more dynamic shifts than I believe have happened previously. And that was when I was approaching everything from the position of my certifications and like what I know about neuroscience or what I know about neuropsychology. But now it's just simply, I just love sharing what's shifting for me. And that seems to be the most powerful way to not just interact with my own reality, but to pass that information along to others. So I want you to take a moment really quickly as we're coming to the end of this, and I want you to name, I would love this if you guys would just play along, name one thing in the chat that you feel you are most challenged by right now. Money, love, whatever, health. What is the most challenging thing in your life right now? I would love for you to name it in the comments. I'm gonna offer something here for you. And don't be shy, we're all in this together. For me, mine has been my experience and my interactions with Bruiser, because there's always the opportunity to interact with him from the position that he's not doing well. And my RAS is still filtering things. My RAS is always filtering, as is yours. But the identity, the version of me behind the lens, behind the RAS, that version of me is filtering it from the position of I need to make sure nothing is wrong. And so that's where I've been shifting from. Love, good. Health, okay. Perfect. Annabella, are you still here? Did you step out? I would say love and health are probably the two main ones, honestly. Well, wealth. Yeah, those are the top three. So it's usually almost always going to be one of those three. So when you say that you're feeling challenged by love and you're feeling challenged by health, what's the challenge? If you could name it in a few words, is it because you lack a partner? Is it because of the past experiences with the partner? What is it about that's most challenging? Same with the health. What are you feeling that challenge is? What is the challenge in that experience? And again, for me, with Bruiser, it's being able to watch and witness him without seeing struggle, without seeing complication, choosing to see him, no matter what happens, as perfectly healthy. It doesn't even matter what I think that looks like. I redefine what it is. Like if I see that it seems like he's having trouble going to the bathroom or something, I don't define that as wrong. I don't define it as trouble. I redefine it. So that's where I always feel challenged. Because, he's my soul dog, he's the love of my life, and he's been with me for, 7 years now, so he's my best friend. There's a lot of stuff there. Okay. Very understandable. Very understandable. Thank you for sharing that, Stephen. So I'll start with yours, Stephen, and then Mina, I'll go into yours. These are really, and thank you for playing along, because this gives real life examples from someone other than myself where I can reflect upon that and we can all relate, because we've all broken up with a partner, whether we have done the breaking up or whether we've been broken up with. And especially if there was a deep emotional connection, or even just, any emotional connection, there's going to be thoughts, emotions, and different experiences that will continually come forward because we've had our energy and our awareness focused on that person for so long. So when we go through a breakup or a divorce or a separation, what's happening in that moment is we're not actually losing someone. We're choosing to disconnect with a certain focal point of awareness. And one of the biggest things I want to be remembered right now is that you never lose anyone or anything. And I know I've mentioned that there's nobody else in your reality, and that can, to some, you may believe it, you may not believe it. It may seem like a dichotomy, it may seem like a mind fuck, and it may just seem like a concept, but it really is true that no one else is there. So when we're faced with these challenges of thoughts coming up and memories coming up, memories are basically the emotional and subconscious interaction that we've had with our own belief system. So if I believe that I really care for this person, if I believe that what that person says or does means something to me, then I have decided that that person means something to me. And therefore I have applied a certain level of value to that person. I have decided that they take up space in my emotions. They take up space in my thoughts, and they take up space in my day-to-day life. And that's how they live on through the memories, because we're constantly interacting with the moments where that person and that meaning, or the meaning that we've assigned to that person, is carried through our awareness. So when we're trying to move on, what I want to invite here is, don't move on from the position that you've lost something. Be present in the awareness that you're gaining an opportunity. It's up to you which opportunity you want that to be. So, do you want this to be an opportunity to remember this, that you are the source of your power? Do you want this to be an opportunity for you to remember that you're the one that's in control of how you feel, you're the one that's in control of how you think? And how do you choose to interact with those memories? Because memories can either be a source of pain or they can be a source of joy. Not because they are doing something to us, but because we have decided that they do something to us. So practice every single day interacting from the memories differently. Allow the memories to move through, not as a source of pain, not as a source of something you've lost, but as a source of just gratitude. Just be grateful Feel whatever emotions come up, whether it's sadness, whether it's grief, whether it's anxiety. Feel those emotions. But when those emotions come up, just take a few moments, slow down, and live in a state of gratitude in that moment, no matter what you're feeling, no matter what the memory is, and no matter what you're thinking. Just practice the gratitude. Face that moment as if the only way that you're choosing to live it is through gratitude. This begins to change the dynamic and the interaction that you have with the memory. Because that memory, again, is neutral. Everything is neutral. Every event, every person, every interaction, every event is neutral. We assign meaning. We decide what it means to us, what it means about us, what it means about the other person. And then that's what we carry. We carry the meaning. So choose a different meaning if you would like, or just simply be grateful and appreciative to the experience that you had in the interactions with this person, and choose gratitude while experiencing grief. And then that changes the dynamic and the relationship with the emotions. So let me know if that is landing for you, and if you would like for me to clarify anything. That's an identity choosing to take all the information that's passing through and see it differently. So there's nothing about the information that's differently, and there's nothing about the information that's different. The information is still the same. You as the source are what's different. You as the source are the one that's determining that no matter what passes through, you're grateful. No matter what passes through, you're not losing. You didn't lose. Nothing is lost. You're choosing to hold yourself in a frequency that takes everything it receives and allows it. And that allowing changes the interaction with the memories, with the idea of the person, and with any experience in life, not just the relationship. And that also teaches you as the source, you're remembering that you're the source of love anyways. And so it was never actually coming to you from anyone else. You were maybe trying to get it from another person, because this is what we all do. We try to get love from someone, but it was never coming from them. You were the one that was always giving it back to yourself. And so when you're practicing the gratitude, you get to interact with everything differently. Okay, Mina says the challenge is releasing the old approach of trying to do something to solve the problem, getting out of the habit of putting so much energy into getting better. Yeah, and again, completely understand that one as well. I feel like for all of us, when it comes to health, we focus on what's wrong, right? We see the symptoms, and that's the evidence, all right? So when you start to have symptoms of sickness or symptoms of unwellness, that's the evidence that your RAS is providing, or your nervous system is providing you. That's the echo from the origin point. Just like in the experience with the memories, just like in the experience with the sensations, whenever the sensations come up, we automatically revert to what's familiar. So if what's familiar is looking for a solution, then we're always going to go that direction. So now, one thing was the challenge. So this is also an invitation I'm going to make for both of these, whether it's relationship, wealth, or health. I know I invited you guys to drop in what the challenge is, but I'm going to bring something forward here. There is actually no challenge in the transition. There is no challenge in seeing things differently. The only challenge is the belief that you can't do it, or that it's impossible, or that the worst is going to happen. But if you no longer believe that the worst can happen, then you will no longer experience the worst happening. So the origin point has to be that you no longer believe in the worst happening. Now, that is something you consistently reinforce. Love to you from the US. That is something you constantly reinforce, but you have to start right now. So the symptoms and the sensations are not something that's wrong unless you believe that there's something that's wrong. What if okay, let's say you experienced a sore throat or pain for the first time in your life as a child, and nobody told you that that was because you were going to get sick? What if nobody told you that? What if you just had a sore throat and nothing happened? Like, or no, let's just say you had a sore throat. Nobody told you. Nobody said, oh, well, that means you're going to get sick. You never would have experienced the next phase if you had not been told that something comes after that. You have been preparing yourself for what comes next because you believe something has got to come next because of whatever's happening right now. Yes, there is a next. But you're determining what's next from the polar opposite of where you could be. So take yourself back to being a child, and instead of someone telling you that, well, that means you're sick or you're going to get sick, oh, well, that just means your body is expanding. That just means your body is stretching. That just means your body is receiving more love. Just think of that shift for a second. Just think in that, just shift that for just a second, that one little thing that's a course of action when you believe in the best possible things happening. We've been on a course of action, or a course of disaster, actually. It's been a course of disaster and disease because we have been taught by our own, we're teaching ourselves basically. We're interacting with all of our subconscious variables. But all of this noise has been telling us that we should believe in the catastrophe that comes next. But what if you no longer choose to believe in the catastrophe? What if you no longer believe that it has to be hard? What if you no longer choose to believe that it's a challenge? What if you choose to simply just believe that everything is already well, and then you look for signs of wellness? You can find them right now. Just like you can find signs of love right now. Just like you can find signs of wealth right now. Start looking for signs. Just take a second with your body and feel the blood pumping. Feel your heart beating. Feel your breath. That's wellness, right? That's wellness. There's so much in your experience that is well. It's just that we have defined certain sensations, symptoms, and experiences as being unwell. And therefore, we tag all the different needs to fix that onto what's unwell. Yep. Because what if you just look at it, like when we look at intense physical aches and it felt like the flu, like those aches don't necessarily mean the flu, but they've been defined in that way, right? So it's about taking the sensations and deciding they mean something else, while simultaneously ultimately just believing in the health right now. You have to believe in it right now. It can't be somewhere else. It can't be when you feel better. It can't be when things feel great, because you're gonna have experiences that aren't there. You got to have contrast. That's the laws of the universe, law of opposites. There's gonna be contrast. Just stop defining the contrast as wrong, because it's not wrong. It's just contrast. So now, I agree, this can be challenging. I look at Bruiser, that's where I've placed so much of my love, and just, he holds so much meaning for me. Mina, you know this. Those that have been around me know this. And to see what he has been moving through, and to see that differently, has felt like a challenge for me. It's literally feels like it feels like I'm ripping my insides out, because it really feels like I need to do something about the situation. But the reminder is that, number one, ultimately, the outcome is always going to be the same. It's what version What version of me, what version of him, what version of my reality do I want to interact with between now and then? We're all going to move on. We all move on. My fight has been to try to prevent him from moving on. Fear of him leaving, fear of losing him, fear of him dying. That end will come no matter how much I fight it. It's going to come for you, it's going to come for me, it's going to come from all of us, but it's not really an end, it's just a transition, a beautiful one at that. Now, that's very difficult for me. I mean, I say it's difficult because I still haven't fully accepted it. But what I can say is, in the process of learning day by day to accept it more and more and more, I'm learning that I'm not supposed to be fighting the end. The end of the story is the same. I can't change it. But what I can change is how I interact with him every moment along the way. If he, because he is an echo chamber of me, my body is an echo chamber of me being the identity, me being what I choose to believe. 1 second. I really hope you guys can hear that. So me choosing that I am the belief system that interacts with my reality. What do I choose to believe in? That's my identity. If I choose to believe in the worst case happening, I'm going to constantly be living in fear of the worst case, because I actually believe in the worst case, which means every day of my life I'm going to spend fighting, trying to prevent the worst case. When the worst case only lives in my mind, it's never out here. There's contrast, but that's it. It's never the worst. I can experience it as the worst if I want, because I believe in the worst. But the worst isn't really happening. What's happening is just what's happening, and that's all there is. It's just a neutral experience. Do I want to believe in it being the worst, or do I want to believe in it being the best? Because I can assure you, when you start believing in it being the best, you experience everything differently, no matter what it is. There is nothing that you're afraid of anymore. There's nothing that fear doesn't shape you anymore. Fear might visit, it might move through. You get to experience it, but you have love and appreciation for what it's showing you. You're not trying to avoid it. You're not running from it. You're not trying to so desperately survive the moment. You're living and thriving in the moment because you know there's nothing to be afraid of. So what I would invite in is to remember, you decide right now, everything exists. Again, I know I've said this multiple times. I'm going to keep saying it. Everything exists right now. Which version of everything do you want to see? That is exactly what you will see once you decide that it is. Not tomorrow, not next year, not once you have the next best treatment, not once you have the next best retreat, not once you move, not once you have the car, not once you have the relationship, not once this happens, not once Bruiser does A, B, C, or D, but now. Now, because now is the only time that exists. So I appreciate you guys being here. I appreciate you playing along. I appreciate you enjoying this, and thank you for reflecting back the positive energy that you receive from these interactions. You know, I love being here. I love sharing this. And there was a time where things were not so positive for me, and I would speak from a position of, I need you to understand what I'm telling you, because if you don't, then I don't feel loved and I don't feel accepted. If people don't show up, if people don't appreciate me, if I don't get subscribers, if I don't get followers, it means I'm a failure. And now I just love being able to show up and experience this with you guys and to share it, just because it's working for me. Why not let it work for you? And I will say really quickly, when it comes, I mentioned Bruiser. When I started interacting with my reality from just toxic gratitude, like just so in love. And I would go in and I would envision, I'd go into my 4D, which is your imagination, by the way. Your 4D prints onto your 3D. You can print, no, it's already printed. You go into the 4D to experience and interact with any printout, any version at any point in time. You can do that whenever you want. You don't wait on it in the 3D. That's what I mean. Like, if you want to live in the version of you that has everything right now, first and foremost, acknowledge that you do, declare it to be so. That's the end. And then go into your imagination and experience it. Because no matter what, it's going to be projected outward anyways. You just simply have to hold the gratitude, the compassion, the acceptance that it already is, and then watch it be. That wills it into existence, so to speak. So, see it now, look around you, see what you have to be grateful for. This is what I did with Bruiser, and it transitioned the entire behavior and the experience and the interaction with him. And like, you know, I've been interacting with a version of him that I have never interacted with before. And that's because I'm interacting with a version of me that I've never interacted with before. And so if that can happen after the same thing happening for 6 or 7 years, it can happen for you too. It changed in a matter of a week for me, and it can change for you too. Nothing is missing from your reality. Not health, not wealth, not love. Yes, the power of love is here now, which means the power of health is here now, which means the power of healing is here now, which means everything is perfect now. So give yourself permission to live it, to be it, to experience it, and know it to be true, and don't falter. And even when you do, it's okay. Just come right back, because you already know, right? Just like you know your name. Know this as easy as you know your name. Okay? All right, you guys, thank you so much for being here. Again, my name is Éoaccí. I appreciate your time, your attentiveness, and just your presence in the Human Condition podcast. If you're interested in working with me, you can click on the description, and there's information so that you can access me. My one-on-ones are open up and available, and I will definitely be back. I will be back here again this week, so I will have another live coming through this week if you're interested in joining. Just normally I share that on my Instagram. You can look up my name and find me on Instagram. I also have that in the description if you want to have direct access to the links when I go live, or you can just subscribe, hit the little alert button or for the alarm or whatever, and get the notification of when I'm going live. And I will be back probably on Wednesday. Every Sunday and every Wednesday is what I'm going for right now, but definitely every Sunday unless something comes up, okay? All right, you guys, I love you, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Until then.